Hi folks, I'm Glyn Dewis. I'm a portrait photographer from the UK, and today what we're going to go through is showing how to do a classic style of lighting. Now, Rembrandt Lighting is a name that you've probably heard bandied around the photography industry, and if you're anything like me, when I kind of first started out, I thought there was no way I would ever be able to do that kind of lighting. But I want to kind of take you through my process, just break it down to 3 simple steps that will show how we can actually make a classic kind of lighting on a subject that will give you longevity. There are many, many ways you can light a subject, but I actually think that if we want to look at our pictures now, and then again in 5, 10, 15 years, and for them to look timeless, we still need to do what they were doing many, many years ago with classic lighting. So we're going to go for the Rembrandt lighting. Now, if you're not sure what that is, in its simplest terms, we have light on one side of the face, we then have shadow on the other, but just under the eye on the cheek, we have a pattern of light, which is generally in the shape of a triangle. So I'm going to show you how we can achieve that in 3 really simple steps. So we're going to be photographing Robert, our model, and we're going to kind of aim for something which has got a bit of a theme, but we're also treating this as a bit of practice, because this is something that if we know it but we don't do it, we're never going to master it. So always, always practice. Maybe even get yourself like a mannequin head, a polystyrene mannequin head off something like eBay for like £5. You can photograph them whenever you want. They'll never complain. You can put them on a light stand, practice 24/7. But we've got Robert here, and we're going to aim for something that could maybe fit, I don't know, like an album cover, or maybe even a movie cover, a close-up portrait. All right, so let's just take you through the process then. Now you can see from the setup here that I'm actually using an octa. This is the large octa. You could use a square octa, you could use a strip. It doesn't really matter with something like this. The light source itself is irrelevant. We're talking about the position of it. How I start off is this. I will always start off with the light directly to the side of the subject. And you can see that the light is perfectly horizontal to the ground. I then meter it. I could be shooting at something like 5.6. We can vary that later on. But then I will take a shot, and you would expect the light pattern to be, as you can see on screen, where we have light on one side of Robert's face and shadow on the other. Now that's not what we ultimately want here, but this is the first step. This is what we call split lighting, and it does have its place in photography. It can create a real kind of moody kind of look, as you can see with this picture of Robert here. But ultimately now with the Rembrandt lighting, we need to have light on the other side of the face where we can see the shadow. Okay, we want a bit of light in there on that cheek. But we're going to take it nice and steady and break it down. So part 1, we put it side on, we get the split lighting. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the actual light, I'm going to keep it the same distance to the side of Robert, but I'm going to bring it back towards my camera position. Still keeping it horizontal, but what you'll notice now is I'm going to tuck myself in really tight against the side of the modifier, and then while Robert is looking perfectly at the camera, straight down the lens, this is another good reason why I use a tripod, because the camera's there in the position, he can keep his eyes on it, so his nose is straight towards the camera. As I'm stood next to the modifier, I then kind of draw an invisible line from my position straight over to Robert's face. Now from there, if I can see the cheek on the shadow side of the face, then ultimately that means so can the modifier, because I'm so close to it. So we can take a shot and see how much light that gives us. Of course, I would then meter it to make sure, because we've moved the light, we might have a variation in the exposure, so we'll always do that. But we'll check it now, have we got light on his face? And you can see we've got a little bit there. But if I want more light, all I need to do is move it back further towards my camera position. And again, making sure we slow down, I get myself tight against the modifier, draw that invisible line straight across to Robert while he is looking straight down the lens. Can I see the cheek? Yes, I can see more of it now. We then take a shot, and then we can see the light on there. So you can see, now we've got light on one side of the face, we do have the shadow, we've got a bit of light on that cheek, and that really could be the kind of look you're going for there. You've got kind of like a cross lighting kind of effect. But ultimately, we want to be able to produce a light that we're going to give us longevity and that real classic look. So this is where the practice comes into it. Now we can really start to finesse it by playing around with the height and the angle of the light. What the hell does that do? What does that give us? All right. Now, look at the angle of the light. At the moment, it is perfectly vertical to the ground, going straight across. Okay, it's coming across the front of Robert. That's what's given us this shadow. Now, with the Rembrandt lighting, like I mentioned, we're going to get a perfect triangle on this side of the face, the shadow side. And that's where we get the shadow formed on the nose to meet at the bottom the shadow that's formed on the cheek. This bottom part here needs to join. Now the shadow on the cheek that is basically the angle of what you have your modifier. So all we need to do now is start to play with the angle of the modifier and also the height. Just play around, experiment. Have the attitude of, what would happen if I did this? You can't break it, just experiment. So let's go higher. Let's now angle it over. And you'll notice as you angle it over, you'll see how that shadow there starts to move at the same. Here's the light, here's the shadow. As I angle it, they both do this at the same time. And we can move it just enough so that shadow joins, and then we get the perfect triangle. Now this kind of lighting, you'll notice there's some incredible photographers going back all over those years, people like Albert Watson, Annie Leibovitz, photographs they were doing 20, 30 plus years ago that had that classic look. And here we are today still talking about them, and we'll still talk about them in years to come. And ultimately, that's what we'll want with our own pictures, isn't it? We don't want somebody to have them on maybe like an iPad and just switch across like this, just looking at them. All that money, all that time, all that effort we put into this, we don't want them to just flip through them. We want to create a reaction. Now, the more we practice this with maybe the polystyrene head, maybe you're lucky enough to have somebody that will always sit there and volunteer for you to practice. It's great to maybe get a group of like-minded people to come and practice every now and again. Have a play day if you like. But more you practice this, it'll become like driving a car. You won't even think about it. So then you can put all the effort into what that picture is. What's that theme going to be? It's like driving a car. You'll just get into it and won't think about the technicalities of it. You're just thinking about the destination. That's exactly what it's like with the photography. You know what you want to do. You've maybe sourced an idea. You've got some props. You've got a set. That's the fun part. The technicals will just come like that. The more you practice it, you won't even think about it. All right, so that's Rembrandt lighting, real classic, timeless kind of lighting that I never thought I'd be doing, but now we've gone through those simple steps. It's over to you to have a practice with it and see how you get on. But the more you do it, the more you practice, you won't have to do those first two steps. You'll kind of know where you need to put it, get yourself in tight, invisible line across, and you're good to go. So now that we've done that, please let me know in the comments, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the really tight, intimate kind of shot on there? Or do you like it when it's a bit wider, a bit more of an environment shot? Leave a comment in the section below. It'd be great to see what your sort of thoughts are on this.